Hey guys, MoiDawg here, and today I'm excited to bring to you a first look at some Beyond the Wire gameplay. The game officially comes out to early access on Steam October 21st, but I want to thank OWI and Redstone for letting me hop in for some games a little bit earlier to check it out and get some footage to show all of you guys. But before we dive into that, I do want to remind everyone to check out my live streams at twitch.tv/MoiDawg. As an off-world industry creative partner, I'm able to show a lot of behind the scenes and some first looks you can't get anywhere else. And if you're looking to pick up tactical shooters like Beyond the Wire, do look at my official game store at MoiDawg.gg where your purchase supports me directly. If you're familiar with games like Squad and Postscriptum, then Beyond the Wire is going to feel relatively similar. A lot of carryovers like the rally system, emplacements, shovels, bandages, and the communication system are more or less identical, with obvious tweaks to make it feel a little bit more unique to World War I. The game itself feels a lot faster paced than Verdun, but significantly less arcadey than Battlefield 1. And I think Beyond the Wire has found a really good middle ground to make World War I combat hardcore, but engaging. There's always a concern with World War I games that the combat can be extremely slow. Bolt-action rifles and trench lines with a whole bunch of no man's land doesn't necessarily make for good combat. And then adding some of the hardcore mechanics that we're familiar with in Squad and Postscriptum, it can be a bit too punishing, and it can make it feel like you're constantly staring at a respawn screen or just walking in a walking simulator. In saying this, I'm excited to say that Beyond the Wire has extremely little downtime. I always felt like I was in the action, and it never seemed like I was trying to just walk from point to point or have a whole bunch of time in between respawns just to get back into the action. During this test, I had a chance to play Assault, a game mode which basically puts one team on offense and one team on defense in order to slug it out over objectives on various trench lines and towns. For the most part, I've really enjoyed this game mode, and it felt a little bit like Battlefield's Operations, where you have to have people inside a certain capture area in order to start capping, and once both of the objectives have been captured, the enemy is forced to retreat and set up on the next line of defenses. I was really surprised to see such a variety of terrain with the maps as well. We played Freeze, a map with rolling trench lines and small townhouses which takes place during the Battle of the Somme in France, Zonebeck, a much more open map which takes place during the Battle of Ypres in Belgium, and Ancincourt, a dark forested map that takes place during the Mise-Argonne offensive. Out of all the maps, I would have to say that Freeze is probably my favorite since it had a nice variety of sectors. You could really feel that you were progressing through trench lines and getting deeper and deeper behind enemy lines until you ultimately reach the enemy's headquarters. Some areas of the maps did seem like the capture zones were captured incredibly quickly, and I'm not sure if this was just because we weren't playing on a full server, but a quick cap zone would then cause defenders to immediately turn and run, completely defenseless as we couldn't shoot in enemy territory. It would be nice if you could at least melee in enemy territory during your retreat back to your own trench line, but either way, this didn't really seem like such a big problem that it ruined my enjoyment of the game, and for the most part, the attacks and defenses flowed really well. No! For those that are familiar with Hell Let Loose or Postscriptum, you'll know that their system of creating a specific squad or specialized roles really depends on what you want to play in that current game. For example, you can create a scout squad, or a commander squad, or armor, and you are locked into that for the remainder of the game, or if you just want to leave squad and create something completely new. In Beyond the Wire, you have a choice to create a basic infantry squad, or take a much more specialized role out of the following other choices: Command, Machine Gun, Scout, and Artillery. Basic Infantry Squad is 6 players, but other squads vary depending on the asset, with the Machine Gun and Scout squads only being 2 people for example, while the Artillery is limited to 4. Each squad leader will also receive a certain ability that only that squad can use. These can be things like call-ins, like the commander's ability to drop gas attacks, which you then have to press G to don your gas mask, or you can build specialized emplacements like artillery pieces, MG bunkers, and even deploy a sniper shield. This is a really cool way to create and coordinate a team, and I found myself thinking about the map differently depending on what squad I was. As an artillery squad leader, I would try to set up on areas that could get my squad in a spot to suppress the enemy from a little bit further behind my lines. Whereas as part of the machine gun team, we tried to stick somewhat close to our teammates in order to support their advance and also deny flanking routes. It's all extremely fun when you have emplacements all built and firing from both sides, as it can get extremely chaotic and immersive. One thing that I did think was a great mechanic to include was the squad leader's ability to destroy their last emplacement, which allowed us to quickly pick up and move to the next objective. Unlike squad or postscriptum, we didn't have to run back to emplacements and dig them down in order to move them up. There's no resource system, and if we didn't have an emplacement up, we could just create one wherever we wanted, so it was really nice being able to just play the game as our squad wanted to. For the factions, we were able to play as either the Americans, French, or Germans. And aside from the obvious weapon differences, like the French having the Lebel rifle while the Germans have the Gewehr, the kits are relatively the same. Most have either a rifle or a pistol as your primary, a melee weapon, sandbags, binoculars, and a shovel. Like squad, all players can revive each other, but medics are the only players who can heal. Now when it comes to combat, however, the bolt action rifles are incredibly slow, and you have to manually pull the bolt back each time by clicking the fire button. This got me tripped up a few times, but after you get used to firing it, it does feel pretty smooth and natural. These rifles appear to all be one-hit kills to the body, with pistols being two-shot kills. And although the primary weapons are great, I know the biggest question on everyone's mind is this melee system. Well, I can confirm that you definitely can block melee attacks and choose which angle of attack you want to swing your sword or club. But since I've never played MORTAL myself, I really can't give a like-for-like comparison. I did find myself first trying to spam click left click whenever I pulled the melee out when I did want to be in close quarters, and that really just ended up with me dying pretty quickly since I wasn't actually aiming my strikes. Once I really took time to look at my reticle and aim my shots, as well as right click parry when I needed to, I found it a lot more responsive and fun. These melee attacks can be incredibly powerful because if you are killed by melee, you cannot get picked up, so charging a trench line or a house and then just swinging your club or sword can completely wipe out the enemy for a good 30-40 seconds. You can also fix your bayonets to the end of your rifle and bayonet charged by sprinting and pressing the middle mouse button. I do like the idea of this, but sometimes it did feel like I should have landed a hit on someone when instead I sidestepped near him and got killed myself. A little of it was probably me just trying to get used to it, but it was a little harder than I thought since I did remember this mechanic from Battlefield 1. Unlike Battlefield 1, there isn't some lock-in animation that I could tell, so you really just have to run and aim best you can and use the bayonet. Whether it's a sword or your bayonet, these melee moments can be a lot of fun, and there's no better feeling than charging a trench line or a house with your melee weapons and slicing or clubbing your way through the enemy. There are some times where we just said, screw it, fix bayonets, grab your sword, and let's see what we can do, because of how slow the enemy's rifles would be if we got in close quarters. Every once in a while, maybe one of us would go down, but the other 2 or 3 players with their melee weapons out would mop up, and it was just so funny hearing them on local comms trying to figure out how to take melee attacks from one another.
Got him?
I got him. Oh no, homeboy got whacked right here.
Overall, I really enjoyed Beyond the Wire, and I think for an alpha game just days away from early access beta release, it's in a fantastic state to build upon and improve. The game is genuinely fun, it feels like World War I, and it gives just enough of the slower tactical gameplay to make you think and communicate with your team instead of mindlessly charging at the enemy like other arcade shooters. Optimization was also great, and I can only recall one moment where I dipped under 60 FPS at full epic settings and 1.25 super sampling on, which is really surprising since games like Squad, Postscriptum, and Hell Let Loose also have a lot of optimization problems at times. I think this game is going to absolutely shine with full servers, and as much fun as I did playing in these maps, I just cannot wait for release so we have completely full servers of World War I chaos. But what do you guys think? Is Beyond the Wire looking like what you expected? What makes this game a day one purchase, or perhaps what are you waiting to see from the devs? Let me know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. But that's it for me. Until next time, peace.
Oh, on the left, on the left, on the left.